Hey guys! Before spring break, I had distributed these notes to one of my stats classes, and I had decided to change up the probability section just slightly. So what that means is I don't have a video exactly perfectly in line with page 13 of our notes. So there's one example on that page that I changed up. So I'm going to go through that example here, and then you can watch the original video that's going to go through this, all the definitions and things. But I did want to make sure you had that example worked out. So what's different is in the other video, I kind of talk about an experiment that I do with rolling some dice to demonstrate the difference between something called a proportion and something called a probability. So the example that we're going to work through in this first video, video 0, is going to be an example of proportion. So you're going to hear me make reference in the next video to creating a frequency distribution and stuff like that. You don't have to worry about that, but you can do that if you want. It's just not in your notes packet. Okay, so this is going to be the first example on the top of page 13 in your notes, just after the definition. Now the definition's in the next video as well, but if you want to fill it in here, you can say proportion. So the definition at the top of the page is a proportion, and the proportion of an event occurring is going to be the number of times that the event happens out of the total number of trials that you did. So here's an example of that. In this example, Jill rolls a die 40 times, and she rolls a 3 a total of 8 times, and she rolls a 6 a total of 12 times. And we want to know what proportion of the time did Jill roll a 6. So to find this proportion, we're going to take the number of times that Jill rolled a 6. In this case, that's going to be 12. And we're going to put that over the total number of times that Jill rolled a die. So she rolled them 40 times, so we're going to get 12 over 40. Now, when I ask you to find a proportion, I'm going to accept your answer in either a simplified fraction or in decimal form. Sometimes I will specify which format I want, and then in that case, you have to give it to me in that format. But other times, I'm not really going to care. You can give me your answer as either a simplified fraction or as decimal. In this example, I didn't specify the format of the answer, so you can type 12/40ths into your calculator to get 3/10 or 0.3. To get the decimal from your calculator, you're just going to type in 12 divided by 40 equals, and that should give you the 0.3. To get the 12 over 40, if you're comfortable reducing fractions by hand, you can see that we can cancel out 2's from the top, or even 4. So if 4 goes into 12 and it goes into 40, and that's how we get this 3/10. But if fractions stress you out, your calculators have a fraction button on them. Sometimes it's going to look like a box over a box. Other times it's going to look like an A, B, C. So if you're not sure what your fraction button looks like, that is definitely something to put into that last question on this week's quiz to make sure that I go over it in class, kind of show you on my different calculators what the fraction buttons look like. All right, let's do another example. What proportion of the time did Jill roll a 3? So in this example, she rolled a 3 a total of 8 times. So that's going to be my numerator. And then she rolled the die 40 times total. So that's going to be my denominator. And then again, I can simplify the fraction or turn it into a decimal. Either way, 1/5 or 0.2, either one of those answers is going to be correct. Let's do one more example of finding a proportion. So what proportion of the time did Jill roll neither a 6 nor a 3? So in this situation, we have to figure out, well, how many times did she roll something that wasn't a 6 and wasn't a 3? And the way that we can do this is by subtracting the number of times that she got either of those two things from the total number of times that she rolled the die. So Jill rolled the die 40 times. She got a 6 12 times, so I'm going to subtract a 12. And she got a 3 8 times, so I'm also going to subtract an 8, and that's how I ended up getting the 20. So she got something that wasn't a 6 and it wasn't a 3 a total of 20 times, and there were 40 rolls. So she has 20 out of 40 for her proportion, and that's going to simplify to 1/2 or 0.5. All right, so that's it for the example on the top of page 13. The rest of the examples should be contained in your notes, except for the very last example for this week. So you're going to see another little extra video, a little addendum video there at the end to go over that last example. Okay, so without further ado, I present to thee in the next video the official start of probability.